No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
What's up, good people, and welcome back to another JAY-visode, Casual JAY-versations. I'm your host, CJ, C-E-E-J-A-Y. And at Casual JAY-versations, we strive to create captivating conversations as we seek to engage, educate, and entertain. And we do that yet again. We find ourselves in the same plight, the same position, the same predicament as we have found ourselves year in and year out as it pertains to the unjustified killings of Black men and Black women. But this time it's different. At the 1964 Democratic National Convention, Fannie Lou Hamer recited these words: "We are sick and tired of being sick and tired." So I wanted to bring in someone from the social justice arena. He's an activist. He's an educator. He has been a soldier on the social justice battlefield with Black Lives Matter here in Houston. I introduce to some and present to others Mr. Brandon Mack. Brandon, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me today, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we get started, let's tell the good people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So once again, my name is Brandon Mack. I have been in Houston all my life. I have been an activist in Houston for the past 13 years. My primary activism focuses on intersections related to racial justice, economic justice, education, and LGBTQ plus issues. I have been a part of Black Lives Matter since the formation of the Houston chapter in 2017. It is important for, I think, people to understand that Black Lives Matter Houston, when it comes to our movement work, it is not just about protests. It is not just about rallies. We have also done support of the Black community in Houston with respect to Hurricane Harvey, with respect to doing supply drives in terms of school supply drives and filling in the gaps within our community. So it's not just about instances with respect to police brutality, even though that is a large part of our work. It is a wholesale movement, and we are dedicated to supporting and uplifting the Black community of Houston, Texas.
Okay, excellent. Now, you mentioned that you have been involved in social justice and racial discrimination and all other types of arena for a while. What circumstances or situations occurred in your life that motivated you to be on the front lines of causes such as these?
Sure. So first and foremost, it's just being a Black person in America. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah.
Growing up, I grew up in a small town, was one of the very few Black people in my town. So I experienced racism at a very early age and throughout my time growing up. So coming to Houston, especially, and being from the Houston area, you don't get a chance to escape that. And at some point, you have to ask your own self, what are you going to do about the situation? So you had evoked Fannie Lou Hamer, and I definitely uplift and draw a lot of strength from Fannie Lou Hamer. But I'm also going to bring in June Jordan, the poet, who also says, "We are the ones we have been waiting for." And I really draw strength in that we don't have to wait for a charismatic leader to be to do the work that we need to do and want to do in our communities. So it is with that kind of mindset that I entered in being a part of activism, being a part of politics, and getting involved, because we really do have the voices that we want to be our own change that we want to see in the world. So that's what got me activated. It's the simple fact of being tired of seeing Black life being devalued, being tired of feeling that we can't do anything and we have to wait for other people to say that. I'm here to say we don't have to wait. We can be that revolution. We just got to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Wait no longer. Now, what is your role with Black Lives Matter in Houston?
So as part of Black Lives Matter Houston, I am an organizer. So we have a team of us who are organizers, and we help on different projects, both collectively as well as kind of individually. So some of the things that I've helped with individually, education is definitely one of my biggest elements that I work with. So I work in terms of doing supply drives and helping needs related to local education, as well as educating Black students about their college options. So I do that. Another part of what we do is with respect to politics and holding political holding people involved in politics, both public officials, accountable. So that is about working with them on their policy platforms, working with them on the policies that they're working for, and then holding them accountable if we do not see that they hold themselves to their word. So those are some of the things that I specifically do within Black Lives Matter.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Now, of course, the groundswell has been focused around George Floyd, and we'll get to him in just a moment. But let's take it back to Ahmaud Arbery, who was basically murdered, hunted down in the middle of the street, and killed. Now, had it not been for video, we would not have his name on our lips. But also, the video was not released until months later. Can you speak on that situation for us?
Absolutely. And that is, once again, one of the reasons for why we have to have transparency, and the need for transparency to be so important, because you're absolutely right in the fact that if we did not have that video, and if it wasn't for someone releasing that video, we would have never known about the injustice related to Ahmaud Arbery. And it's very, very likely that the individuals who killed him would not have been prosecuted at all, especially given their connections to the district attorney's office. So the thing that makes the Ahmaud Arbery situation very, very, in a sense, unique is the simple fact that this wasn't law enforcement. This was literally two white individuals who felt the need and felt empowered because of current laws on the books, such as stand your ground laws, to be able to follow Ahmaud Arbery, who wasn't trespassing, because the owner of that particular property has made it very, very known that several other individuals have gone through that property because it's just a house under construction. They've gone past that property on runs, jogs, normally, and they've never had any issues with that. So these individuals were specifically looking for a reason, a justification to go after Ahmaud Arbery, and literally shot him in the street. So I think it's very, very important for us to know that that's the reason for why these laws, such as stand your ground laws and all these other laws that have a disproportionate impact against Black and brown people, those need to be abolished. Because, for example, Trayvon Martin, stand your ground was used to justify his killing. In many other instances, stand your ground laws have been used to justify the murdering of us as Black people. But and yet, when we're in similar situations, trying to defend our rights, to try to defend ourselves, we get disproportionately punished. And our criminal justice individuals who are involved in that don't do anything in terms of trying to change that situation, trying to change how it's applied, even though the history is clearly there. So one of the things that the Ahmaud Arbery situation is showing us is that, once again, you have the evidence through video, you have someone using a stand your ground law to justify their actions, but this time there's no way that that can be applicable, especially given the fact that the actual owner of that property said this person was within their rights.
Exactly. And another thing to add to that, I just read today that there is an audio of one of the two gentlemen, and I use that word loosely, of course, using a racial slur. So more information will come out about that. Let's segue to
one other thing to also bring out, and it is a very important connection, is that there is documented photos of one of the individuals involved in Ahmaud Arbery's murder at a Trump rally. So once again, it is showing that is building, once again, that distrust that we have in the person who's the current occupant of the White House in addressing our specific issues. If you're using that negative rhetoric against Black people, of course, it's going to have an impact in the way that the people who are behind you with treating Black people. So once again, that's why we got to hold that occupant in the White House accountable, because his rhetoric is empowering these individuals to feel that it is okay to devalue us as Black people.
And that, Brandon, that can be an entire show within of
Unto itself. Yes,
itself.
sir.
But now let's speak on Miss Breonna Taylor, who was, let's call it as it is, who was murdered in her
Yes,
own home on a no-knock warrant. And the warrant was actually served at the wrong house
yes.
to make matters worse. And then to even further to make those matters worse is that her boyfriend was charged with attempted murder because he was trying to protect the house. Now, of course, those charges have since been dropped, but why would police officials, even when they knew they were wrong, would try to spin another situation out of it and charge him with attempted murder?
The reason being is because law enforcement always wants to seem that they're in the right.
Okay.
Let's be honest. When have you seen law enforcement actually apologize and accept responsibility for their wrong deeds? It's way easier to suggest that someone else was doing something in the wrong in order to justify your actual wrongful actions. So I think that that's what we saw, especially in the Breonna Taylor situation. I think it is important for us to recognize that while we are especially in this moment and we're recognizing George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, we cannot and should not and will not forget our Black sisters are also victims of this senseless violence. We have to remember Sandra Bland. We have to remember Pamela Taylor. Pamela Turner. We have to remember Rekia Boyd. We have to remember all of our women who are also being killed senselessly by police violence. So that's a very important distinction to make with respect to Breonna's case. There is actually going to be a rally tomorrow in Discovery Green that is going to center Black women. It's going to be at 3:00. And we definitely encourage individuals to go and stand in support as we call for justice for Breonna Taylor, because what happened to her is definitely a travesty, given not just because she's simply a Black person and a human, but also a first responder.
Exactly.
In the time of COVID-19, we know that many of us as Black people are the ones on the front line. And even you can't go home and get rest from this situation of COVID-19 without the cops coming in and feeling that they can't even simply check that they're in the right address and leading to our death, even though we're trying to do our best for the good of everybody else.
Exactly. And you bring up an important distinction with Black women. That's why I wanted to make sure I included Black men and Black women in my introduction. Now, of course, we bring us to Brother George Floyd, whose murder was witnessed not only across Minneapolis, but across the United States and across the globe, as it has united and ignited a groundswelling of a movement that we currently find ourselves in right now. When Officer Chauvin had his knee on the neck of Brother George Floyd, he looked comfortable, hands in his pocket, didn't have an expression on his face. He looked comfortable, as if he was supposed to be there. Speak to the comfort level of policemen when it comes to police brutality and aggressive policing.
Absolutely. So one thing that I think we also have to always remember is that unfortunately, all of these incidences are connected to a central problem. And that central problem, once again, is the devaluation of Black life.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Eric Garner. We saw the Eric Garner situation in which a police officer was completely and totally comfortable with putting him in an illegal chokehold while he was yelling, "I can't breathe."
Mm-hmm.
We saw firsthand that, and we were believing that we were going to see change based off of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So now to see once again someone being held down in an illegal hold with someone's knee on their neck and yelling out once again, "I can't breathe," and seeing that complete and total disregard is exactly the reason for why you're seeing the outrage, because we've been through this before. We've been through this several times, and clearly, even when the evidence is there, it's still not changing police culture and police behavior.
Mhm.
So that is what we are seeing as far as the comfortability when it comes to police engaging in these activities. Because look at the fact that while he was doing that chokehold, there were people filming it. He wasn't even being responsive to the people who were saying, he can't breathe. Why are you doing this? And his fellow officers were standing around and allowing it to happen. That's why you saw that comfortability, is because police culture facilitates that comfortability, and there's not officers checking other officers. And then also because there are many times no police review boards that are done by independent citizens who have subpoena power to actually hold them accountable. That's the reason why you're seeing that disregard, because who is there to hold them accountable? You're expecting police to hold each other accountable. When have we seen that work for the benefit of Black people? When have we actually seen them hold them accountable? So that's the reason for why you saw that he was so comfortable with being able to do that, because he knew what is the likelihood that I'm going to be held accountable for this situation, and what is the likelihood that I'm going to lose anything. Simply him losing a job, that's losing livelihood. George Floyd lost his life. His physical life. And so I also felt that while they did upgrade the charges to second-degree murder, it was an offense in the fact that the first one was a third-degree murder charge. Because once again, it shows that that disregard for Black life, in the fact that you're not even going to charge them equally with what has been done and against Black people when the circumstances have been very, very different. We always get overcharged in situations, whereas they get undercharged. So once again, where's that accountability?
Exactly. And now, of course, the other 3 officers has been charged in that incident as well. And I mentioned to someone the other day, it is good to get charged, but we need the conviction.
Exactly. Because if we've seen time and time again, yeah, they get charged, but then all of a sudden the district attorney decides to no bill, and we don't even go through a process. And then we go through a process, the evidence is clearly laid out there, and then we get no conviction. So you are absolutely right in the fact that what we need to see is conviction, especially given the fact that you have such conviction to convict us. We need that same conviction to convict them.
Exactly. Now, of course, the whole knee situation in Mr. Floyd's neck has brought up the conversation, the topic, and reignited the situation with Colin Kaepernick, with him taking a knee. And of course, Drew Brees has come out in the past yesterday, about not standing, taking a knee for the flag. And now he has since walked back those comments and apologized profusely. Now, as a armed forces veteran myself, I can understand where he's coming from, but my viewpoint is, yes, we have fought for our country, but it's to have the freedom to do those things. Not this has nothing to do, and this is from a veteran, has nothing to do with the disrespect of the U.S. flag. But even though he has apologized, there are other people who share his sentiments before his apology. Speak on those who think that kneeling is a form of disrespect to the United States flag.
So first and foremost, no one should tell us what we should do. Let's be honest about it. Drew Brees and any other white person does not have the ability, the right to tell us as Black people how we are supposed to feel. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, we have a right to protest.
Exactly.
That is part of our First Amendment rights of freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and you have the right to protest. So what Colin Kaepernick was engaging in was his First Amendment right that all of our armed service veterans, and thank you for your service, sir, fought for, was for us to have that. So therefore, for him to express the exact right that is attached to that flag is showing respect because you fought for it. It is emblematic of that. But at the same time, let's not forget the history of us as Black people in this country. When that flag was conceived, when that Star-Spangled Banner was written, it did not have us in mind.
Nope.
At all. So hence, why are we pledging allegiance? Why are we showing deference to something that is not showing deference to us?
Mm-hmm.
So inherently, he was showing exactly what the world keeps showing us day in and day out, is that they don't consider us to be equal members and equal parts of this country.
Right.
So we'll stand up when we can all equally stand on that same footing that is called equity in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, yes, take a knee. It is not disrespectful. It is actually respectful because it is indicative of the rights that we fought for and have achieved as this country. But the other thing that I think that is very interesting about that particular situation is that that is considered to be a peaceful protest,
Mm-hmm.
and they still had a problem with it.
So I had a problem with it. Exactly.
So hence, I find it very ironic and very wrong in the fact that everyone talks about peaceful protesting and things of that nature and want to chastise people for the way that they act. But it's like this. If you peaceful protest, you still got a problem.
Right.
That man peaceful protested. He still doesn't have a job. He still doesn't have a livelihood. So he did what y'all asked him to do.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the reward? Where is the retribution for that? So we have shown that we can peacefully protest. And I'm not necessarily advocating for violence or anything of that nature. But what I'm saying is just by a logical sense, if you've done something and you haven't gotten a reaction, what other option have you given people?
Exactly.
So hence, what you are seeing as far as a reaction to what everyone is doing is the fact of, you know what? It takes us raising our voices.
Mm-hmm.
It takes us marching by the thousands.
Mm-hmm.
It takes us collectively shouting, Black Lives Matter, by any means necessary. Whatever we need to give you the message, because being silent hasn't always worked.
Hasn't worked. And with that, you mentioned protesting. I was looking at the town hall that President Obama was a part of the other day. And one of the things he mentioned about if people have a problem with protesting, the country was founded on protesting that thing called American Revolution.
Exactly.
And you mentioned marching by the thousands. Of course, just recently, Houston witnessed 60,000 strong participating in a rally, all centered around George Floyd, but the grand scheme of things of Black lives being taken unjustly. Speak on your experience being a part of that 60,000 strong, and that's probably a lower number, is probably 60,000 and something. But speak on that experience of being involved in such a large rally and large movement.
It definitely is important that we had that many numbers. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing to see that many individuals activated for that one moment. Mm-hmm. But what I want everyone to understand is that you can't stop with that one moment. Mm-hmm. There are multiple ways for people to get involved and continue this movement, because this is exactly what this is. It is a movement. Mm-hmm. So how I honestly felt about that particular situation was, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you showed up. I'm glad that you're activated. But the true test of this is, where are you going to be 6 months from now? Are you still going to be activated? Are you still going to be demanding that Black Lives Matter? Are you going to hold police accountable? Are you going to hold your political officials accountable? Are you going to use your voice to speak up and out and in support of the policies that need to be done in order to make your life better? And that is not just from the government standpoint. You can also do things in your local community. Mm-hmm. Get involved in your school district. Make sure that they're giving the resources to your schools, and make sure that they are not devaluing Black and brown children by not having their schools equally as financed. Be involved in the city council, in the fact that right now the budget is up right now to where the police could actually get an increase in their budget. We are actually encouraging everyone to look into the policies of Council member Letitia Plummer, who has proposed 8 changes for the 8th. And so it's called 8 for 8. And we're definitely encouraging people to look into that and to support that, because once again, those are ways in which you can get involved in this movement, so that while we are grateful and glad that people came out and showed their support and 60,000 strong were there, we need you to keep on. in this movement. So it is about, once again, using that collective power, using the individual ways that you want to get involved to make those changes within your community, within your workplace, within your own area, and it keeps spreading out to where hopefully we're getting a collective change that is dismantling the systemic oppressions that we face as Black people.
And you actually answer some of the questions that I solicit to some of my viewers, Tori and Kim, as far as, you know, what do we do now and how can we make the movement a lifestyle? And also, he asked was basically how, if someone can show up to a march or a rally, how can they help during the movement? And you answered to that question as well. Another question that I have from a viewer, Miss Nikki, is there a protocol or some type of information to guide for those who would like to form a protest?
Sure, Miss Nikki. There are definitely kind of guides and things of that nature. You can always feel free to reach out to us as activists. Black Lives Matter Houston, our email address is blmhou@gmail.com, and we're definitely able to help you with that. You sometimes you're going to need the assistance of, you know, the city of Houston in terms of getting permits for particular spaces. Sometimes you have to work with law enforcement just to make sure that if you're going to do a march from one end to the other end, that things are blocked off in the way that you need to do that. So there are those ways to have things set up. But the thing is this is public property that we are doing this on. Right. We as taxpayers own that. So if you want to gather people together in a public space, you have the ability to be able to do that because you already own that public space. So we definitely encourage individuals to get involved in that way. We've had individuals do collective protest and organizing in Emancipation Park because it is, you know, a historically Black park, right, where they've been there to talk about Black issues. And so you would work with the Parks Department to make sure that however you're trying to get it set up is blocked off that way. But us at Black Lives Matter Houston, we're definitely willing and able to help individuals in terms of what they need to do if they want to organize their own event and their own protest.
Okay, and as we wind down this interview, because I know you're pressed for time, and I wanted to speak on, have you seen an increase of membership with Black Lives Matter Houston? And how can people become members? And also, how can they donate to help the cause that you all are continuing to fight?
So I want everyone to once again understand that Black Lives Matter is not necessarily like a membership kind of organization or something of that nature. You're a part of it if you are a part of the movement. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And so, because many people ask us, you know, when's our next meeting and things of that nature. And we will organize events when we want to bring everyone together because everyone is a part of that. Now, if you want to help us in terms of ideas, things of that nature, once again, feel free to email us about at blmhou@gmail.com. We're definitely happy to talk with you about the particular event that you want to put on and to help you with assisting that. Because once again, we're all part of this movement because us as Black people, the way we're going to make that change, we got to collectively do it together. So that's one thing. In terms of wanting to donate to our efforts and to support the work that we're doing, you can go to our social media. We are available through Facebook at Black Lives Matter Houston. We're also active on Twitter as well as Instagram, and you'll find the methods to be able to donate to us through our various methods through our social media.
Okay, great information on that. Brandon, I can't thank you enough for taking time and carving out time in your schedule to be on the show. I greatly appreciate it. We must do this again, hopefully not under the guise of another unjustified killing, but hopefully under the guise of change happening, actual movements affecting change. So hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely, and definitely keep these conversations going. We need to continue to talk about these issues because that's how we're going to get them addressed.
Okay. Well, good people, thank you so much for tuning in to Casual JAY-versations and Mr. Brandon Mack with Black Lives Matter Houston. Please remember George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Alton Sterling, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, and the countless of lives lost unjustly. In their memory and our strength.
I also want to add the name Tony McDade.
Tony McDade. Let's make sure we vote like we protest. Until the next time, peace and be blessed.